How's it going, Danny? It is I, Mr. Cinema Junkie, and this is my entry into your awesome contest. Very cool stuff there, man. And yeah, I have to agree with you on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. Although another YouTuber pointed out to me that it's, when you look at it like the cheese factor that's involved, I like cheesy movies. I do. You know, just, I don't know, when it's part of a franchise like that, when it dares to call itself a continuation of that story and gets that cornballish and weird and stupid, I can't forgive it that much. Can't say I'll never own it. In fact, I did own it one time on VHS. It was a Japanese import, and there's actually more to that movie than the American release. In the beginning, you see Renee Zellweger getting ready for her prom or whatever. But in the Japanese release, while she's getting ready, her stepdad or her dad or someone comes in and pushes her up against the wall and tries to like make out with her and fills her up and stuff. It's pretty ugh. But yeah, you're right. It's a pretty bad movie, man. But you asked for our favorite horror icon and the first horror movie we ever saw. I can answer both of those fairly easy. I'll go with the first movie I ever saw, first horror movie I ever saw. I was 3 years old. I was 3 years old. And the reason I saw this movie was because my dad felt like taking us to the movie after I had just got out of the hospital. Had a little bit of an accident. I don't know how old you are. I want to say we're almost around the same age. Maybe. I don't know. But do you remember those washing machines that had the ringers on top of them? The two rolling ringers. They're automatic, and you put your clothes through them and squeeze all the water out and pour it right back into the washer. Remember those? It had an emergency stop. The top would pop up if too much stuff went through at once. Well, I was standing there watching those wheels turning, and there was a hair on one of them, and I kept trying to catch it. And my arm was probably about this big around back then. Well, didn't move my hand back fast enough, and my fingers went in, and it just took me all the way up to the elbow. And that thing never popped open. Started grinding and bruised me up pretty good, smashed a few corpuscles. Didn't break anything, thank God, but my hand was swollen. My arm was black and blue. God Horror is probably laughing with me again, not at me. Anyways, so after a trip to the hospital and put my arm in a sling, my dad decided to take us to the drive-in where I saw my very first horror movie, and that movie was It's Alive. I had no idea what was going on in this movie. I just remember my mom freaking out. But I remember the scenes. For a long time, the only scene I remembered was when the doctor went in to help the lady give birth, and he came out with his face all cut up and blood was everywhere. And I didn't know what was going on. So I often tell people that's the first horror movie I ever saw, but it was not the movie that made me a fan of horror because I didn't have the concept for horror. I was like, okay, so it wasn't until I was 6 and I saw Night of the Living Dead that I liked what horror could do, because I went and told my friends the next day what I saw, and they were all mesmerized. What happened? I liked the attention, so yeah, I started trying to find as many horror movies I could find just to keep everybody entertained. But no, my very first horror movie was It's Alive. And I finally got to see the whole thing through, because we had to leave early because my mom was like I said, she was wigging out real bad. So I got to finally see it years later. I was like 23 or 24. I was working at a video store and I saw it on the shelf. I'm like, I'm finally going to watch this damn thing. So that was my very first one. Now, favorite horror movie icon. That's not an easy question. That's not as easy as the first one, although I do have a favorite. But I'd like to toss some honorable mentions. One, of course, being Leatherface. And yes, this is the Leatherface from the remake. I don't have an original Leatherface yet. Another one, of course, Michael Myers. Original Michael Myers. Not a fan of the remake. Not even a little bit. I do not own a Jason figure. Well, I do, but it's in storage. It's an 18-inch figure. He's also right up there. Although, I don't know. Got a little played out there towards the end. But no, sir. My favorite horror movie icon has been for quite some time, ever since I was 9 years old. Favorite horror movie icon is the Tall Man from Phantasm. As far as firsts are concerned, Phantasm was the first movie I saw, again, with my dad. My dad was very lenient about the movies I watched. But by this time, my mom and dad were already split up, so I was visiting my dad. And he took me to a drive-in again. And this time I saw Phantasm. It was a movie my mother had seen, and she told me all about it and had me all like, really? I gotta see that. And she's like, oh, no, you're not seeing that. No, not you. Man. But of course, Dad, being Dad, he said, hey, you want to go to the movies? Yes. What do you want to see? Looked in the paper. This. Okay. He didn't care. But it was the first movie I saw that scared me so bad that I didn't sleep. I'd stay up as late as I could until I was told to go to bed. And then I'd go to bed and I'd stay awake all night with the lights on until I saw the sun coming up. Then I'd finally fall asleep. Too scared to go to sleep, man. And I know, you look at it now, it's a corny movie to some, and that's fine, but it still holds a special place in my heart, and I can still watch it to this day, never get tired of it. Still going to collect different versions of it from different countries if I can. And I think part 2 was more like a remake in some instances. It was just the first movie with a bigger budget. But to me anyway. But Phantasm, I've seen this movie 200 plus times. I'm not even kidding. And I've seen it just on about every format available. Everything except for 8 and 16 millimeter film. I've seen it on anything that it's been on. You name it, I've seen it on that. So, the only thing I haven't seen it on yet is Blu-ray. And that's next. So my favorite horror movie icon is the Tall Man from Phantasm. My very first horror movie was It's Alive. Thanks. Good luck to everybody entering the contest. And keep it brutal, man.